There is a round so small you could lose it in the cracks of a wooden floor. Plenty of people walk right past it on the store shelf. They see those two little numbers, .22, and they figure they already know the whole story. They peg it as a toy, a starter round, something for tin cans and slow afternoons. But this one is not that. It carries more than twice the energy of the round people keep confusing it with. It reaches almost twice as far, and for more than 60 years, it has quietly done more than anyone expected from a bullet this small. This is the story of the .22 Magnum, and why the people who underestimate it usually end up the most surprised. Walk into almost any gun shop, ask about a .22, and most folks picture one thing: the .22 long rifle. It is cheap, it is everywhere, and it is the first round a lot of people ever fire. That little round earned its fame. But it also created a problem. It taught people that every small .22 must be the same. So when they spot the .22 Magnum sitting right next to it, they shrug. Same caliber, they figure. Same tiny bullet. How different could it really be? The answer is a lot. And the gap between what people expect and what this round actually does is the whole reason it keeps turning heads. That assumption is the round's biggest curse and its quietest advantage. It gets overlooked, yes, but it also keeps catching people off guard, because almost nobody expects this much out of something that looks so plain. To understand why, we have to go back to the farms and fields where it was born. The year was 1959. Out in the country, a lot of families kept a .22 long rifle by the back door. It handled the small stuff: rabbits in the garden, squirrels in the barn, a snake that got too close to the porch. But it had limits. Past a certain distance, the little round ran out of steam. A fox or a coyote slipping along a far fence line was often just out of reach. Farmers wanted more. They wanted something that hit harder and flew farther, but without the price and the heavy kick of a full-size rifle round. Back then, the jump from a cheap Rimfire to a centerfire rifle was a big one, in both cost and recoil. There was a wide gap sitting in the middle, and nothing small and affordable to fill it. Closing that gap is exactly what Winchester set out to do. Winchester answered. They took an older, almost forgotten Rimfire case and made it longer. Then they packed it with more powder. The result was the .22 Winchester Magnum Rimfire. Most people just shorten that to the .22 Magnum, or .22 Mag. It fired a bullet about the same width as the famous long rifle, but it sent that bullet downrange far faster. For a farm family, it was the missing piece. Close work and far work both handled by one small, affordable round. There is a small detail in the design that gun lovers still find funny. The bullet itself is about the same width as the one used in the .223 and the 5.56, the rounds at the heart of a lot of modern rifles. The Magnum just sends a lighter version of it. So in a strange way, this humble little Rimfire shares a thread with some serious company. It was built from simple parts for simple jobs, but the engineering was smarter than its price tag ever let on. Here is the part that surprises people. Winchester invented the cartridge, but they were almost the last company to build a gun for it. While they were still getting their rifle ready, other makers jumped in. Smith & Wesson and Ruger had revolvers chambered for it. A couple of rifle makers quickly reshaped their designs to fit it too. By the time Winchester's own rifle was finally ready in 1960, the new round was already out in the wild proving itself. And it kept proving itself for decades. Out of every new Rimfire round that came along in the entire 20th century, the .22 Magnum was the one that truly stuck. That alone tells you something. Plenty of small rounds have come and gone and been forgotten. This one earned a permanent seat at the table. So what changed when Winchester stretched that little case? More room. More room means more powder. And more powder behind the same size bullet means more speed and more force when it lands. It sounds simple, and it is. but the effect is bigger than most people guess. The .22 Magnum case is longer and a touch wider than the long rifle case. That extra space is where all the work happens. It is also why these two rounds are not the same, and why you should never treat them like they are. This part matters, so it is worth saying plainly. A .22 long rifle and a .22 Magnum are not interchangeable. They are not built for the same chamber. You cannot safely swap one for the other. They may look like cousins on the shelf, but inside they are different sizes meant for different guns. Knowing that difference is just part of being a safe, responsible shooter. Always match the round to the firearm it was made for, and check it every single time. With that out of the way, let's talk about what that bigger case actually does once you pull the trigger. Here is where the .22 Magnum stops being a curiosity and starts being impressive. A common long rifle bullet leaves the barrel at somewhere around 1,100 feet per second. That is quick. The same weight bullet in a .22 Magnum can leave the barrel at close to 1,900 feet per second. Some of the lighter loads push past 2,000. That is a huge jump for two rounds that look so much alike. Speed is only half of it. The bigger story is energy, which is just a way of measuring how hard the bullet hits. A long rifle lands with around 130 foot-pounds of force at the muzzle. The .22 Magnum lands with more than 300. That is over twice the punch from a bullet you can barely feel in your hand. But the number that really stops people is what happens far downrange. The .22 Magnum holds onto its speed so well that at 100 yards it is still moving about as fast as a long rifle is moving the very instant it leaves the barrel. Read that again. At the length of a football field, the Magnum is just hitting its stride, while the long rifle would already be fading fast. That speed buys you a flatter shot, too. A flatter shot is an easier shot. With both rounds zeroed at 50 yards, a long rifle bullet might drop around 6 inches by the time it reaches 100 yards. The .22 Magnum drops closer to 2. That gap is the difference between guessing and hitting. And because the Magnum moves faster, the wind shoves it around less, which helps even more when the target is sitting way out there. The round also comes in a few different flavors, and each one has a job. The lightest bullets, around 30 grains, are the speed demons. They leave the barrel fastest and shoot the flattest, which makes them great for far, small targets. The middleweight, around 40 grains, is the all-rounder, balancing speed and punch for most hunting. The heavier bullets, around 50 grains, give up a little speed to carry a bit more weight downrange. That choice is part of the appeal. You can match the load to the work instead of being stuck with one option. The sweet spot for the .22 Magnum sits somewhere around 75 to 100 yards. In that window, it is fast, flat, and still hitting with real authority. Even out at 100 yards, it carries enough force to do the job cleanly, which is more than the smaller round can promise. In fact, it holds its energy so well that out around 140 yards it is still carrying nearly as much force as a long rifle delivers right at the muzzle. With a steady rest and a careful shot, hunters reach out with it to about 125 or even 150 yards. And it stays surprisingly accurate at those distances, which is not something you can say about most rimfire rounds. By now you might be thinking the .22 Magnum simply beats the long rifle at everything. It is not that simple, and that is what makes the comparison worth having. The long rifle has real strengths the Magnum cannot match. It is cheap. You can shoot it all day for the price of one box of Magnum ammo. It is soft on the shoulder, it is quiet, and you can find it on almost any shelf in the country. For target practice, for teaching a new shooter, and for close small game, it is hard to beat. There is a reason it is the most loved small round in the world. The .22 Magnum is the specialist. It costs more, often 3 or 4 times as much per round. It is louder, it is harder to find. You give up cheap, easy shooting, and you get one thing in return: reach with real force behind it. When the target is farther, tougher, or both, the Magnum does what the long rifle simply cannot. So it is less a question of which is better and more a question of what the job is. One is the everyday tool you grab without thinking. The other is the one you reach for when the everyday tool comes up short. So where does the .22 Magnum really earn its keep? Out where the work gets done. For small game and pests, it shines once distance enters the picture. A long rifle is happy on close rabbits and squirrels. The Magnum stretches that reach way out. A shot that would be too far or too weak for the smaller round becomes very doable with the Magnum. Hunters lean on it for bigger pests too. Raccoons, foxes, groundhogs, and prairie dogs sitting far across a field are all squarely in its lane. Prairie dogs in particular are a favorite, since they are often shot at long range across open ground, exactly the kind of work the Magnum was made for. A long rifle would be straining at those distances. The Magnum is right at home. Now, honesty matters here, because the .22 Magnum is not magic. That extra force comes at a cost. On small, tender animals like squirrels and rabbits, a body shot from a Magnum can ruin a lot of the meat. A whole crowd of experienced hunters stick with the long rifle for the little stuff for exactly that reason. Then bring out the Magnum when the game is bigger or the shot is longer. The smart move is matching the round to the task, not forcing one round to do every job. The .22 Magnum also gives you choices in how the bullet is built. Some have a soft polymer tip or a hollow point, made to open up fast for quick, clean results on pests. Others are solid, made to drive straight through. That range of options is a big part of why hunters keep it close. With the right bullet, you can tune the same little round for very different targets, from delicate to tough. On the farm, that reach is exactly what people love about it. A pest at the edge of a barn or out by a far fence line is no longer a problem you have to sneak up on, and because the round is still small and cheap compared to a full-size rifle cartridge, you can keep plenty on hand without much fuss. There is one more place the .22 Magnum has quietly built a following. Light kits meant for the outdoors and for hard times. Think about what a small round gives you. It is light. You can carry a lot of it without weighing yourself down. The guns that fire it can be light too. Some .22 Magnum rifles are built to fold up or break down small enough to slip into a pack and still weigh only a few pounds. A handful of newer models come in around 4 pounds while still holding close to 30 rounds, which is a lot of reach and a lot of shots for something you barely feel on your shoulder. For someone who wants a do-a-little-of-everything gun that does not eat up their whole load, that is a strong mix. The round also crosses over between rifles and handguns. Plenty of small, light revolvers are chambered for the .22 Magnum. That means one kind of ammo can feed two very different tools. A compact handgun for close work and a small rifle for reach, both running the same round. For a simple, light setup, that kind of flexibility is worth a lot. In recent years, the round has even found new life as a defensive option in small handguns. In a little revolver, its speed and force land in the neighborhood of some popular defensive rounds, but with far less recoil to fight. And because the bullets are so slim, some revolvers hold more of them than a larger caliber would in the same frame. More shots, less kick, lower cost. It is not the most powerful choice out there, and no one is pretending it is. But for the right person in the right setup, it brings real value in a very small package. For a long stretch, the .22 Magnum lived in the shadow of its famous little cousin, carried mostly by farmers and small game hunters who already knew its worth. But something shifted in the last several years. Gun makers started rolling out new compact handguns and light rifles built around it. Ammunition companies began designing loads aimed straight at self-defense instead of just hunting. All at once, a round from 1959 was getting fresh attention from a whole new crowd. Part of that is simple to explain. People want force they can actually control, in a gun they can actually carry, loaded with ammunition they can actually afford. The .22 Magnum quietly checks all three boxes, and a new generation of shooters is figuring that out for themselves. A cartridge that some folks had written off as old news turned out to have plenty of life left in it. Now, if all of this is making the .22 Magnum sound perfect, let's pump the brakes. No round is, and pretending otherwise would not be fair to you. The cost is the first thing. Every time you pull the trigger, you are spending several times what a long rifle shot would cost. For someone who shoots a lot, that adds up fast. The ammunition is also harder to find, with fewer choices on the shelf. When supplies get tight, the long rifle almost always shows up first. It is louder, which matters more than people think. In a quiet area, that crack carries, and it can clear out every critter in earshot after the first shot. And unlike the long rifle, it does not have good, slow, quiet loads for use with a suppressor. There is also newer competition. A small round called the .17 edges the Magnum out in flat shooting and raw speed at far targets, and some hunters have drifted that way. The .22 Magnum did not stay the king of every category forever, and that is fine. None of this erases what the round does well. It just keeps the picture honest. The .22 Magnum is a specialist, and like any specialist, it is worth the trade only when you actually need what it offers. So we come back to where we started. A tiny round that most people glance past. A round that shares a look and a name with the most common bullet on the shelf, and gets lumped in with it without a second thought. But the .22 Magnum has spent more than 60 years answering that doubt. It carries more than twice the energy of the round it gets mistaken for. It reaches almost twice as far. It shoots flatter. It fights the wind better, and at 100 yards it is still doing what the smaller round can only manage up close. It was the one new rimfire of its whole century that truly lasted, and it still rides along in farm trucks, hunting packs, and light kits all over the country, doing real work. It was never trying to be a big rifle. That was never the point. The point was to take everything good about a small, cheap, easy round and push it farther than anyone thought a bullet that size could go. And on that promise, it has delivered, over and over. So the next time you see it sitting quietly on the shelf, looking small and ordinary beside its famous cousin, remember what it really is. Not a toy, not a starter round, a small package that has been proving people wrong since the day it arrived.